On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the former Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Segun Oshinowo. He shared some of his experience as DG of NECA, which spanned up to 19 years, while also emphasizing the need for inclusive engagements to foster national development. It's good to have you on the program. It's been a couple of years since we last saw.
Yes, it's been quite some time, Sharon. Pleasure seeing you again.
We hope to tap from the knowledge that you've had and your wealth of experience. And very quickly, let's start with the situation we find ourselves in the country. Not just typical to Nigeria, we also have many developed countries faced with this challenge of migration. But we also have the working populace, the younger ones most especially, migrate or relocate in whatever guise or form to developed countries. With your experience as an employer of labor, with your experience as a former DG of NECA, how do you think developing countries can retain skilled workers?
First, I think we must acknowledge the fact that migration is a human instinct for survival. For me, that's a fundamental issue, that individuals will stay in their space, examine their situation, and then ask themselves where they can guarantee the best of life for themselves. So it's an individual decision, issue of migration. And such decision will be predicated on how can I get the best of environment to live my life. And wherever that place is, I'm prepared to move in that direction legally. So the challenge now for the sovereign is to be conscious of this human instinct for survival, and then make sure that they create the environment, they create the climate that will make the individuals to vote or opt for staying in their environment to eke their living. So that is really key. Otherwise, there's nothing anybody can do about migration, given its link to the human instinct of survival.
So, are you saying that there's no strategy that can be put in place to ensure that we still retain skilled workers?
Well, you see, if you're talking of strategy, you have to look at strategy in terms of attracting those skills and retaining those skills. And the skills you are talking about, some of them are skills that are required in other climes in the world. So the issue of competitiveness of your own climb now comes into question. How competitive are you to get the possessors of those skills to opt for you rather than some other people? And there are no sentiments about this. And some of the considerations of the possessors of those skills could be remuneration, the hygienic factor of employment. Am I getting the best value for my skills and competencies? Am I getting the best remuneration that will enable me to nurture my family and to get quality life? Those are the things that individuals will process in taking their decision. Is it safe for me to operate in this environment? Is it safe for my family? Those are the non-hygienic factors that drive the decision of individuals as to whether to give their skills to the current location where they are, or move to a location that will be able to meet their own expectation. So we can't throw away the factor of competition.
Okay, before I go on, I am aware, or we are all aware about the fact that we have some multinationals leaving the country. In view of this, what strategies do international organizations actually do to improve standards in general?
I need to understand where you're coming with this in terms of standards. Are we talking of
Labor standards.
labor standards? I don't think the exit of multinationals from our environment has anything to do with the issue of labor standards. In fact, and that's just the belief in some quarters, that adherence to labor standards could actually add to the cost of operation. But I don't think that's really the issue in our own environment, using Nigeria as an example. The issue more in our own environment has to do with a whole gamut of issues that have to do with enabling environment rather than labor standards. And of course, there have been many researches that have actually proved that adherence to labor standards will boost productivity, and that labor standards should not be seen in the context of cost of operation for businesses. That for those who have imbibed those labor standards, they are likely to have the output of higher productivity in their system. There are many studies that have been carried out to that effect. And what usually influenced the articulation of labor standards is just to promote good living standards for workers. Labor standards are not protected just for the sake of creating obstacles for business. It's just to make sure that workers, as stakeholders in businesses, are guaranteed the best from their input into those businesses.
With your experience managing businesses and top organizations for more than 3 decades, what do you think can be done to ensure that we have more jobs out there for people? Looking at the fact that the rate of unemployment has quadrupled over a couple of years.
The incidence of unemployment is a dependent variable and not an independent variable. And for me, that's a basic starting point, really, in going into this conversation of what can we do to address the issue of unemployment. The perspective of seeing it as a dependent variable. And the moment we're able to bring ourselves to accept that, our point of entry into that kind of discourse will now be, why are people unemployed? Because unemployment is just the outcome of our failure to undo certain things. And those certain things are the independent variables, which we fail to do, that have now yielded the result of unemployment for us. First, we must make sure that, look, we're running an economy that is delivering on inclusive economic growth and development year in, year on. I've used the term inclusive economic growth in the context of a job-rich growth, because it's possible for you to have a GDP growth that is not job-rich. So we must ask ourselves, anytime we post a positive GDP growth rate, is it job-rich? Is the employment content positive for us? And delivering on positive GDP growth rates is dependent on our macroeconomic framework, the quality of our policies, our fiscal policies, our monetary policies. How easy is it for our budding entrepreneurs to access credit? What's the cost of those credits? What kind of environment are they operating in? What is the quality of our infrastructure? How easy is it for producers to access their market? I mean, those are all gamut of issues that will determine whether you're going to post a positive GDP growth rate or not. If you don't get that right, you'll not be able to create jobs. If your macroeconomic policy favors imports, then you'll be creating jobs in other climes rather than your country. Is your economy export inclined, export focused? What's the quality of your government spending? When you have a government spending that is in favor of recurrent expenditure as against capital expenditure, it's going to affect your ability to create jobs. Those are the fundamental issues we really need to look at as a country. And then, of course, we need to ask ourselves, even if we have done all that and we are able to create jobs, are our citizens ready to be able to take advantage of the jobs that have been created? Because that's a different conversation on its own.
With your experience being part of a tripartite body that determines what happens in the world of work, what would you say is changing, or what do you think needs to change to ensure that we have a more robust workspace?
Change could go in any direction. And oftentimes, the mindset of people when you talk about change is in the positiveness. So when people talk of change, the impression is that, oh, things are getting better. Or you could have a reverse change, that things are getting worse. And it is in that context that we address the issue of tripartism. Time was when we had a robust tripartite system here in this country. But we've lost it because it's as if the sovereign does not really have what I would call memory of good things that have been done in time past. It's as if from time to time sovereign try to abandon what has worked in preference for what is retrogressive. What I'm trying to make from that really is that in any society, workers and employers are major stakeholders in the economy. The employers are the wealth creator. The workers provide their competencies and their skills to enable the engine of growth for the economy, which is the private sector, to achieve their objectives. And there's no way any sane and civil government will ignore the input, engagement, and interaction with such key stakeholders. But these days, government is turning into an all-knowing government. An all-knowing government that can even talk for stakeholders on interests that are unique to those stakeholders. That can't work. It won't produce a meaningful development. You can't assume my interests. You can't talk on the basis of my interests. I'm in the better position to articulate my interests, to provide you with perspective of my interests, to let you know what will work for the basis of my interests and basis of the society at large. But we don't have that. Autocratism is creeping into government engagement with the society because of this concept of an all-knowing government that can think and act for everybody. And we need to say no to that. And there's in fact a current conversation going on by those stakeholders by saying, this is not the way it has been. What it has been before has been beneficial to our polity. It's time for us to get back there. You can think for us. You can act for us. You can assume what we want. So let's ignite again the wheel of tripartism.
finally, what would you say is the most ideal for policies to thrive in a particular country or economy or developing country generally?
Every policy must have an objective. Of course, every policy we equally have its gestation period. For a government that has its head in the right place, there should be a measure on ground based on time elements for you to review the effectiveness of whatever policy and measure you have put in place. This is the objective, because that will enable you to really know whether your policies and your program are actually achieving their objectives. And if they are not, you have to yourself the question, why are they not? Which will prompt you to now start a new thinking process as to what next to do for you to achieve your objective. Whether those who have given our suffrage to deliver good governance does that from time to time, I really don't know. But that should be a basic component of governance, where from time to time you audit your policy, you review the effectiveness of your policy, and in doing that, you don't keep to yourself the outcome of that endeavor. You engage your public and let them know, this is how well we have done in respect of this. This has not worked. We're thinking in this direction in terms of repositioning this so that you can deliver our objective. So policy is not something you just articulate and just leave it that way, and you don't go back to audit it or review the effectiveness of it based on the objectives you have earlier articulated for those policies.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you.
Yeah.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.